Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Thursday and it is the anniversary of the 1 year anniversary of the takeover. And we have mail, as they used to say on that film, from the chairman of Newcastle United. And as a season ticket, it dropped into my inbox. So I will read you this email. It says, to all the fans of Newcastle United Football Club, thank you for your incredible support. I am very conscious of the contributions that you all make on and off the field. Football clubs are driven by their fans, and this club's fans are more passionate and more committed than any others. I have seen for myself on many occasions how Newcastle fans have lifted our team. As we mark the first anniversary of our takeover of the club, it seemed appropriate to take the time to say thank you on behalf of the Newcastle board. The first game after the takeover will live long in my memory. The feeling of pride at holding the black and white scarf as I entered the stadium, the collective roar of 52,000 of you, and the unrivaled electric atmosphere of St James's Park on match day. I will never forget the warmth of your welcome to my fellow board members and me on that October day. A year ago, we set out some principles in an open letter that framed our thinking as custodians of the club. We told you we wanted to build, over time, a consistently successful team. And we told you that we were focused on long-term success. There is still a long way to go, but each season is a building blocks towards our objective, to challenge for trophies, both domestically and in Europe. The club we are building is made up of people who understand our long-term vision and who understand the patience and persistence that it will take to achieve those goals. Those values are reflected in the players that we bring to the club. Bringing the women's team into direct ownership of the club is part of that plan. Progress won't always be smooth, but we will always forge ahead. You can rest assured that we are all working very hard to drive the club forward. The support of our fans and the Newcastle community is an incredible motivation for us. It will never be taken for granted. Yours, Yasser Al-Rumayyan. Malcolm, thoughts on that?
I think it's. I think it just it responds in exactly the way that they've behaved for the whole 12 months. There is nothing but absolute honesty in that, and all with the right sentiment. And for once, I just think that the supporters and the board of directors, they are of one mind almost, and that's just for the betterment of Newcastle United, the future success of Newcastle United, and I think it's absolutely brilliant that they've recognised that they've been there 12 months. They've recognised the absolute give the club everything support that all the supporters do, and I think that they really appreciate it, and how different it is to what it was immediately before. How different, and I can't help but think that all supporters, they will, their respect for the board will just grow by this letter.
Gibbo, first time you've heard that, I know you knew it had come out. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, terrific, anticipated that it would be like that. It sums up the approach that's been taken during the last 12 months to what's happened at Newcastle United. It's reassuring what will happen in the future. Not quite used to that under Mike Ashley from my memory. I wasn't quite used to such thoroughness, and it actually sounds from the heart. Whenever we got something from Ashley, it sounded as if a PR had just thrown a couple of words together and said, "Say that, Mike," and he would say sorry, because every statement he made, when he made about 4, all began with the word sorry, and then he did nothing about it. But that was yesterday, and this is today, and it's marvelous, and it's very hard to think it's only 12 months, guys. When I look back, there's so much happened in that 12 months. It's the first anniversary tomorrow, and may we have a flag-waving, wonderful party on Saturday with a victory to celebrate the first year. But when you think of what's happened in the first year, it's been quite incredible, because things take time in football. As part of that statement said, it won't always be smooth, but it'll always be happening. And that's been true of Newcastle. And a lot of people, as we approach tomorrow's first anniversary, have said to me, "Hey, Gibbo, what's the most important things that's happened in the year, in your opinion?" And I look at it, and so much of it has been right. You'll never get 100% right. That's a physical impossibility, because we're human beings. But there's about 90% of it has turned out to be right all the way along. And when I look back and think, there's been so much that you could put your finger on, but I look back and think it's the first things that go right that make the huge difference. You remember the first 4-minute mile. You don't necessarily remember the second and the third guy to do a 4-minute mile. You remember the first bloke to walk on the moon. I bet you can't name the other 10 that walked on the moon after that. You don't. First is first, and first is different. And therefore, for me, the two outstanding things that have happened in this 12 months is, first, the appointment of Eddie Howe as manager, because get that wrong, and it takes a hell of a lot of putting right in the club. Get the wrong manager. Don't we know that? The man down at West Brom's proved that to us. Get the wrong manager, and it's very difficult to put things right. It was a brave decision to go for Eddie Howe. He was a bright young manager that looked to have a great future. But if you look at facts, he could be said to be a young manager that had only done something on the small stage at Bournemouth, be it miraculous, bringing them from 4th tier to the Premier League and keeping them there. But you could say this was a guy that in his last job, took Bournemouth down, and then was 12 months out of a job when Newcastle come looking for him. So it was a brave decision to go for him. And he wasn't the first choice. The guy that was at Arsenal was the first choice, but he was the right choice. And he's proved the right choice. At the time, there was bigger name managers being touted for the job, Lampard and Gerrard, and he's done better than both of them in the last 12 months. He's done better than both those. He has been absolutely outstanding, and without him, you wouldn't have got the rest happening so easily, because you appoint the wrong man, it's difficult. After that, we've been terrific in the transfer market, over 2 transfer windows, and people say, who's the best signing? It's a heck of a question, that, because 3/4 of them, 9/10 of them have been magnificent. And I know the worst signing, but the best one is difficult because we've had so many. So again, I go back and make it the first, which was Trippier, because when you get somebody in that's a current England international, that's played in finals for England, he's just won La Liga. We are in the bottom 3, and we're only going one way, and that's down. We haven't won in the first 14 games of that season, and yet he signs for us with no parachute agreement to get out if we do go down. Bruno was magnificent after that, and so was loads of people after that. But he was the first to put his head on the block, and therefore I love to look back and say, Eddie Howe, thank you. Kieran Trippier, thank you. And there's a million thank yous after that.
Yeah.
But that's the way I like to look at it.
John, I absolutely agree with all those sentiments. I really do. Just on Trippier, he's done an awful lot that has impressed me beyond most players. But what really impressed me more than anything with him was that when he was out injured, he said, I want to be on the team bus. I want to go to away games. And he's a great communicator. And I think that Eddie Howe recognised that and just said, hey, he's doing my job for me almost.
Yes, you're right.
In the dressing room when I'm not there.
The guy on screen there, the guy called Michael West on screen there, said one word sums up the past year: united. And that is absolutely true, because that's what this club definitely was not before. And that united spirit was summed up by what Malcolm has just said there, by Trippier's attitude when he was out injured, on crutches initially.
Yes.
Every reason to stay at home, and he wanted to be there in the trenches with the lads to help to put things right. And that spirit has abounded through the squad, hasn't it? It was quickly taken up by Bruno without a shadow of doubt. And other players that's come in, Byrne has got that in abundance. Pope that's come in, players that were already here, like Kraft and like Fraser, whose body language was all wrong. Joe Linton, for goodness sake, the big flag bearer, completely. They've all built into this. Wilson, when he's out, is so positive and so determined to come back and so much for the team. The whole thing's been terrific. We could do this program and make it 2 hours, Stephen, we would still be talking about it. But it's been terrific. And that's not said on just licking a general situation. It is said in my case and in every Geordie's case. I think it's said from the heart, because it has been like that. Yeah. And we rebel when it's not like that. And for 14 years before this last year, it wasn't like that. And didn't we kick shins, and didn't we say so? And we had every right to. And isn't it wonderful to have the last 12 months that we've had? Long may it continue.
Yeah. Last weekend, the Malcolm McDonald derby finished Newcastle 4, Fulham 1.
Wasn't it a nice day? Wasn't it a nice day?
Well, it was. Go on, John. You start, mate. You start, because, look, an away win's an away win. But that was comprehensive.
Oh, no danger. And I mean, yes, people will say, outsiders I'm talking about, they'll say, they had a man sent off before 10 minutes was up. Mitrovic was injured. The heads dropped, etc., etc. You know what's happened in the past? Newcastle have played quite well in the majority of matches this season. Not the last home match with Bournemouth, but in the majority. They've played well for 2/3 of the pitch till they got the final third, and then they haven't. Now, here they were given an opportunity, but you know what I loved? They were ruthless. They said, right, you're down to 10 men. We don't feel sorry for you. We are going to fill our boots. And they went out and they filled their boots. And they did it terrifically well. And that's what impressed me, because we haven't been ruthless in the past. It was thoroughly deserved. As it happens, when I look back, I think 11 against 11, Fulham on the day wouldn't have been able to do the job against what Newcastle were ready to throw at them. And there were so many good performances. There's absolutely no question about that. There's also no question about, as far as I'm concerned, the two of the great reasons why Newcastle turned it round is because Callum Wilson and Bruno were there. You know, whatever standards we have set all season, players have gone high and then not so high. They've gone high and then dipped. These two are the blue chip players for us, because they go high and they stay high. They're consistent. We are looking for consistency. Those two have got consistency in their games. Bruno dictates the middle of the park. and Wilson leads the line properly. He's a proper centre forward. And for me, that made a difference. Yes, Almiron was terrific. Yes, Longstaff did his job, etc., etc., etc. But the two people that have been out at times recently are Bruno and Wilson, and now they're back. It's no coincidence that things have changed.
Yeah,
Malcolm?
yeah, I thoroughly agree. Fulham, I have seen in a few matches over during this early part of the season, and they have so impressed me, particularly against Liverpool earlier in the season. They just tore Liverpool apart and went 2-0 up, albeit Liverpool fought back late in the latter stages of the game, and they nicked a couple of goals. Because if there is a weakness with Fulham, it's in their back four. But I was still, nevertheless, so impressed with the way that Fulham played, how they were on the ball, and they were making Liverpool look second-raters. I got the deep impression on Saturday Fulham were scared of Newcastle. They hadn't been scared of Liverpool, but I got the impression that they were, if not scared, they were worried of what Newcastle could throw at them. And possibly because Bruno and Wilson were back in the side, John, and had really thoroughly strengthened it. And Fulham's best midfield player, he went dreadfully over the top on, and good players shouldn't need to do that. And I felt it was purposely done. I looked at it 2 or 3 times and I thought, oh, that really is nasty. And the referee was absolutely right to send him off. Why he booked him in the first place, I don't know. But he having gone off, what also really impressed me was that Sean Longstaff, having taken a really nasty knock, he just got up, got on with the game, and started and assisted Bruno in driving Newcastle forward. And I've got a feeling that Wilson, he's like a magnet in the penalty area. He pulls other players in. How many times have we seen when Wilson isn't playing that the opposing penalty area is almost empty because nobody's getting in there? But Wilson in there, he seems to be a magnet to other players to want to get in there, knowing that there's bits and pieces going to drop down from all that Wilson does in there. And all of a sudden, we started to look aside. Terrific goals. Well done, Almiron. I give him a lot of stick. I know.
Hold on. What was that, Malcolm?
Well done, Almiron. Yeah. Hey, good for him. But again, you see, I just have that feeling because we haven't seen Almiron come into the penalty area like he did against Fulham. And I think it's that there is something about Wilson that pulls these people into the area, and it's causing nightmares for opposition. It certainly did for Fulham. And Fulham just didn't look the side that I've seen them earlier in the season, where they went 2-0 up against Liverpool and have really outplayed other sides in the First Division. And so, all in all, I thought it was absolutely magnificent. And as you say, John, that Bruno and Wilson, they seem to have brought that very important magic that we've been lacking into the side. And it's now a cohesive unit from back to front. Back four did great. I've got all the faith in the world in them. And so that having gone to West London and battered them we've now got West London coming up to on Saturday.
Yeah.
So let's continue battering West London.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
And we've got
Batter
Chelsea
those Cockneys.
later in the year.
Sorry, Malcolm.
Sorry?
I say batter those Cockneys. Oh, sorry, Malcolm.
Great stuff. All right. Dodo Bird has some interesting news here. Dodo Bird, you will remember, is the man who bought the trousers in Malcolm's shop all those years ago, John.
I remember ever
met
so
you in
much,
Grace
yes.
Club. He says, "Hello, Steve. I'm hoping to be at Pumphrey's in the Dog and Parrot on Saturday. I've got a pleasant surprise for John and Malcolm. Hope that's okay. Dodo Bird."
Well, I'm a little bit apprehensive because Malcolm had a very much a surprise for him when his trousers collapsed in the 70s when Dodo bought the trousers. And
Well, it's news to me. I've got no idea what he's going on about, lads. So the good news is for me and Malcolm is that it'll be John that gets hit first.
I know.
And you want me to
I know
tell
what
you
the
if I've
surprise
been
is.
blown up, aren't you?
No, John, he's bringing the trousers back. He wants a refund.
I
With a
think that
receipt.
he probably is. And he wants to find out if I'm bringing my trousers that I got at McDonald's shop as well. So we'll go down to the Dog and Parrot together, armed with a pair of strides a piece.
Great stuff. Look forward to hearing what that is and seeing what that is anyway. Thanks, Dodo Bird, for reaching out. Tom Dixon says, Newcastle women will play St James's Park again in November. Becky Langley's side will face Bradford City women on Sunday, the 27th of November. Kick off 2:00. Good news that, Malcolm. The ladies team back at St James's Park.
Yes, excellent. And of course the pitches are in such a great state now that that they can take a huge number of games beyond the men and the all the men's games. So yeah, not a problem at all. And I would imagine that there's going to be some big crowds.
47,000 is what we need to beat, I think, and it'll be Mia Dad has been on Twitter already hoping that we can. John, it's great to see the women's team getting up to St James's again.
No question at all, because I've always felt that while the Northeast have always produced great footballers in the men's game, haven't they? If you go back over the years and you do the Charltons and you do Stan Morrison and Jackie Milburn all the way up to Michael Carrick and the ones that have played for Newcastle United. And we've also produced a load of terrific footballers for the England women's side. I mean, they're countless, from Lucy Bronze through to all the girls that played for the Sunderland team, because that was the only team around here. Jill Scott, 137 caps, etc., etc. So Newcastle United ought to be part of that. And they haven't been, because of the lack of support from the parent club. They haven't been able to compete at the highest possible level. Amanda is very passionate, and she's obviously got the support of other people that matter within the boardroom at St James's Park. Very passionate to make it happen here. And that's just part of the overall detail that's now currently happening within the club. And it is terrific. And they will get good support. And, hopefully they will come along in tandem with the Newcastle mainstream team in producing a very good future on both fronts.
Quick one for you, John. Any news on Isaac? I know Eddie Howe will be giving his press conference tomorrow, but have you heard any whispers or the jungle drums?
The good thing is that he is ahead of schedule in the way that Shelby is, although they were at a different level. Shelby was injured quite a while back. It is good news for us. I do believe that Eddie's way, and I totally agree with it, is to be cautious, isn't it? He's learned this with Callum Wilson, and he's applied it to other people. I mean, we were told just before the game down at Fulham how close Sam Maximin was to coming back, didn't even make the bench. Quite correct. It would be very tempting to have Isaac there, say, on Saturday, because Wilson probably won't last to 90 minutes again. You can't expect it when he's had 5 weeks off or whatever it is, 6 weeks off. He's not going to make the 90 minutes. And wouldn't it be lovely to have Isaac to go bump because he wouldn't be ready to start? Here you are, he goes on. But that can be taking a risk. I think they won't take a risk with Isaac this weekend. They will take a risk with Sam Maximum because it's less and less of a risk. He's ready now. But I would like to think that Isaac could be under consideration after tomorrow's match. I mean, he might squeeze into the bench tomorrow. I would suspect not, because Eddie's cautious, and he's right to be cautious. Because when a player's injured, and Malcolm knows better, when a player's in, rush him back. If he collapses, he's out twice as long as he was originally.
Absolutely, yes.
Don't do it. So don't do it. But he is not a long-term injury problem, and that's wonderful.
John, Fred Street, who is the physio
at Arsenal,
for Arsenal, and later for England, he wrote a book, and the title of it was "Fit for Saturday." And the reason why he called it that was the only question he was ever asked on a Thursday and a Friday. Is he fit for Saturday? Is he fit for Saturday? Is he fit for Saturday? And he was being pushed all the time to sort of say, oh, yeah, he's fit for Saturday, when maybe a player wasn't.
Well, I tell you what, Malcolm, and
Eddie Howe. Sorry, I was going to say Eddie Howe. He's not going to get dragged into situations like that at all. And quite right.
I tell you, what's interesting as well, Malcolm, is with hindsight, when I watched the game at Fulham, and most physios are pushed. Most managers don't think like Eddie on caution. They think, I just want you to say the guy's fit because I want him in the team, and he's in the team. I tell you what, Mitrovic should never have started at Fulham. He was a million miles off being fit. He done his right ankle playing for Serbia in the last match. He came over here. He was fit. Full of apprehension. Newcastle, he's in the goal-scoring form that's second only to Haaland. So are we in trouble? He was nowhere near the pace. He was nowhere near fitness. Shouldn't have started. He was rushed in. That's what you get when you rush people in.
Sure. I don't think Mitrovic is comfortable playing against Newcastle.
Oh, I don't think he is, but I think he was injured, Malcolm, without a shadow of that. He's not, because he never scores against Newcastle. But if ever he felt he had a chance of doing well against Newcastle, it would have been on Saturday if he was 100% fit, because he's in an incredible scoring. But the minute the game kicked off, he just looked as if he was making the numbers up. And the minute there were two down or whatever, good night, off he went.
Yeah, on the kickoff whistle, he disappeared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't see him.
And by the way, if Ivan Toney wants to do the same on Saturday, I'm not going to object one little bit.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, we'll look ahead to Brentford before we finish the show. I just want to ask you this before we do the ads, Mal. Mr. Anderson asked this the other night. I didn't have the answer. Did you used to run a pub, Malcolm, called the Back Post?
No.
Yes.
No, the Far Post.
The Far Post. There you go then, Mr. Anderson. We have the answer. And did Gibbo used to get in for a few sherbets?
No, it was on the South Coast. But the interesting thing, it was, I let Malcolm take up the story, of course. But the interesting thing, when Malcolm had that pub down there, and he'll tell the story, that's when he first got in touch with Mirandinha. He tipped me off that he was offering Mirandinha to Willie McFall. And I got the exclusive story that the first Brazilian to play in the English Football League in 100 years was going to play for Newcastle, and was Mirror. And it was Malcolm who'd been approached in the Far Post at his pub on the South Coast that set up that whole deal. Correct, Mal?
Yeah, absolutely correct. It was a guy who... He had done student exchanges, not with himself, but his son. And so a couple of Brazilian students would come across and live with him, and they go to the University of Brighton. And one of these guys was Mirandinha's best friend. And so a relationship built up. The fella didn't really know anything about football. But he was asked what connection in football did he have by this student who was acting as Mirandinha's agent over in Sao Paulo. And so this guy came into my pub one lunchtime and he said, I don't know what to do. Have you any advice? And I said, oh, blimey, you're talking about a very complicated issue. Are you sure this is genuine? Oh, yeah, it's genuine, he said. And anyway, I did a whole load of checking, and sure enough, it was genuine. And Graham Souness was manager of Rangers at the time, and I had pretty much tied up a deal for him to go to Rangers, and about a week before the deal was going to take place, he was sacked. he was sacked from Rangers, and so on the rebound of that, William McFall, my old teammate, goalkeeper, he was manager of Newcastle, so I spoke with him and I said, look, I've seen a whole load of video. This guy can seriously score goals. And I said, and he's over with the Brazilian side next week playing at Wembley and against England. Go and see him. See what you think. And if you want to do a deal, we can do it. And so he went. The score was 1 each, and Mirandinha scored for Brazil. And Willie phoned me up and he said, yeah, want him. And so then started all the shenanigans of trying to put a deal together, and thinking that we had sort of got there. Then all of a sudden, the president of Palmeiras, Mirandinha's club, he says, "I'm flying over," and all sorts of shenanigans went on. Anyway, the deal got done, and so everybody was happy, I think. And well, Newcastle were until Mirandinha just went back suddenly, didn't he, to Brazil, from what I understand. But by then, I had nothing to do with the whole situation whatsoever.
Yeah, I remember him ever so well at Newcastle for a long time. And he still keeps in touch now. He emails me and sends me little WhatsApp messages where he's actually on screen back at home in Brazil. And because he's still a toonie. He's still, the highlight of his career was his time at Newcastle United.
Oh, really? Really? Yeah. Because I remember talking to him through his friend stroke agent. And I asked him the question. I said, so what will you do once you finish with football? He said, I'm going to be a pig farmer. I love pigs. I want to be a pig farmer. And I think that's what he became, John.
Yeah. He tried to manage obscure clubs in deepest Africa and all sorts of business, but he's back home, and he got in touch with me wanting me to contribute to his book he's written, which I contributed in brilliant foreign language, which I spoke so wonderfully in it, and I couldn't speak it at all. But that's how it appeared in the book. John Gibson says, but he's a nice man, and he loves his time. He loves his time from Newcastle. It was the biggest thing that happened to him, without a shadow of a doubt. But
I'm surprised that he says that it wasn't actually playing for Brazil.
No, it was playing for Newcastle.
In the
Premier League. And of course, he's got the record of being the first ever Brazilian to play in the Football League in at their time, 100 years of history. Of course, we've had some super duper Brazilians playing in the English game since, and we've got two of them here, Bruno and Joe Linton.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got two of them here who are quite tasty. I'll settle for them two being here now. And I never thought I would say that of Big Joe, but I am saying it of Big Joe because it's Big Joe Mark II, not Big Joe Mark I.
Absolutely.
And Big Joe Mark II is a top class midfielder. Big Joe Mark I was the Chris Wood of Brazil. But it's different now.
I'll not have anything said about Chris Wood on this programme. You know that.
I do, mate. I do. But you're kind to animals as well, aren't you?
What about Fulham, John?
Yeah. Well, yes. There's always the other side of the coin, isn't there? You know, we in this country have always thought Brazilians magical. We love them. We see Pele. We see them not only win the World Cup, but they flick it up the trouser leg, over the shoulder, they bounce it on the left shoulder, then on the right shoulder, and we think they are the Samba kings of football, and they are. But they have duffers like we have duffers. And unfortunately, Newcastle have had a couple of those duffers, but we're good at that. We do sort of house these people from time to time. But as I say, we've now got two Brazilians that we can be proud of.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to a question here from Barry. He says, "Hi, John, Steve and Malcolm. I was thinking, do you think the higher we are up the league at the break, that will convince better players to come to us based on our European qualification potential? So in the January transfer window, if Newcastle were top 6, top 7, challenging those European places, would we get more chance of bringing in better players, Mal?"
Yeah, without any shadow of a doubt, yes. The first thing that anybody does on hearing that a club's interested in them, they go to a paper or the internet and they look at the current league table to see where that club is, and now maybe go back over results of this season, last season. Where did they finish in the league last season? And of course, if you're in there threatening for European football, then you've got that much better chance of signing the real quality players. If you look at Ronaldo at Man United, the fact that Man United haven't qualified for the Champions League, he has just gone, whoa. And he's struggling to get an interest within himself for this particular season, and there's all sorts of problems with him at Man United. Good heavens above, the fellas played, I think, about 120 Champions League matches. Now, all of a sudden, he's in the Europa Cup. I mean, no, what? And he's just not impressed by it all. I'm very disappointed in Man United that they could fall so low.
I think the interesting thing from Newcastle's point of view, and I take what the gentleman's asking about, and it's very significant, talking about will better players come here if we're in the right part of the table and we're pushing for Europe. And of course, as Malcolm says, the answer to that's yes. But I think the real testing ground on that is not January. That's not when the big deals are done. The big deals will be done in the summer, when we'll either be in Europe or we won't, or we'll be 8th or we'll be where. People don't come on the promise of Europe in January. People come on the promise of Europe in the summer, at the beginning of the summer, because it's either happened or it hasn't happened. Rather than January. People of the quality we're talking about won't come in January, they'll come in the summer. But the sort of people that might come in January, and I keep hammering this, guys, and I don't apologize for that, because I would love to see it happen. And didn't he play well in the last match you watched? And that's James Maddison. He might come in January. And I tell you what, I don't apologise for beating that gong. He's some player. And if you...
No,
I know
but John, it's only a follow-on, isn't it, from the summer anyway?
Yeah, but I mean, let's do it January, because the way he plays, more and more people are going to see what a good player he is.
Well,
and then we might be fighting Liverpool or who knows, Man City or Spurs from. Let's get him in January when we're not. And he's keen on Newcastle because he knows how keen Newcastle were last summer. And I sat down and watched them play against Nottingham Forest. Now, I know it was only Nottingham Forest, and the blind school can beat Nottingham Forest, but he was magnificent. I mean, the other night when he played Nottingham Forest, he just ran the show. And that is the sort of quality he's got. And you know what? You look at our midfield and you say it's a three-man midfield. We've got Bruno and we've got Joe Linton. And when they're fit, they're knock-on bets to play. So there's one position left. Willock has played in every single game this season, which is a surprise to most people, and it was to me, including the League Cup. Every single Premier League game and the League Cup, Willock has started this season. That's quite a surprising stat.
Yeah.
You've then got Longstaff, who's trying to get in and scored in the last game. You've then got Anderson, who's a terrific prospect, and you've got Shelby to come back. So there's a lot of people going for that third position. But I'll tell you something, Maddison is a class above them all.
Yeah.
A class above them all.
John.
And if we signed him, Malcolm, I think that would be a statement signing.
Yes,
That would be a statement signing.
And from what I understand, I think he wants to get this move done and dusted to Newcastle.
Yeah, he's more than happy to come to Newcastle.
Yeah.
He does realise that the Leicester City bubble has burst. I'm talking about winning the Premier League title, winning the FA Cup, winning the Community Shield at Wembley, playing in Europe. That bubble's burst. Those days have gone. So he's got to move because he's too good than playing in a Leicester side who are fighting relegation. So where does he go? I want us to get him in January, because if we wait till the summer, mate, it'll have dawned on Spurs, it'll have dawned on Liverpool, it'll have dawned on Arsenal. We'll have some competition from clubs that are in the Champions League. So let's get him now. Let's get him this January. And we are genuine contenders for him. We haven't given up on him in the way that we didn't give up on Botman. Etc. We just kept going, and eventually got him. But I don't know if it's just me. I don't think so. I think you two lads think as well he would be a quality signing.
I wanted Maddison in the very first transfer window that the new owners had. That was my dream player. So it would be a dream come true for me. BT says only one player, Matt Targett, joined Newcastle from another Premier League club during the summer transfer window. Will the top six do business with us when we advance into the Europa League, Malcolm?
Who knows? I have a feeling that might not happen. That they won't. I think they're frightened stiff, and that's why they won't. It's not for any other reason.
I think you're right, Malcolm.
They're frightened stiff of what Newcastle are going to become further down the road.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the only way they would do business with us is if we paid right over the top, and our owners realise that and are determined not to be taken for suckers.
Absolutely. And they're shrewd business people.
Yeah, I'll come back to the big gong. Leicester aren't in the top six and don't think about that, and they would sell to Newcastle or anybody else if the deal was right. So let's go in and get Maddison out of there.
Yeah, John, they're in a bit of a dire financial situation.
Desperate.
Yeah.
They had to sell from Fana to Chelsea in the last window because they needed the money, and they'll have to sign somebody. They'll have to sell somebody big in the next window to get money. Now that'll be Maddison. Tielemans will not make as much as Maddison would, Vardy has been terrific, but he's past his sell-by date. So the man will be Maddison. Let it be Maddison and let it be us.
Sure. Yeah, Vardy keeps getting big court bills as well.
Which is the only reason he hasn't retired. He's got to keep earning.
He's got to keep playing.
Unbelievable. Okay, Newcastle United, of course, have got a big game coming up at the weekend. And for me, lads, this one, Brentford at home, is, it's one of those games where you look at it now after getting a great result down at Fulham, and you've got to follow that up with a home win. You've got to give the home supporters something to cheer about. It's the anniversary of the takeover, and it's an opportunity for Newcastle to cement their place in that top 10. It could even be top 6, depending on the way the results go.
Sure.
But we'll give you just the viewers a quick chance to hear that it's a 3 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park this coming weekend. As you all know, Supermac will be at the Dog and Parrot at 12:30 and getting back there around about 6:30. Gibbo and John Anderson will be at Pumphrey's pre-match only at 12:30. As for injuries, well, it's a little bit early to confirm because Eddie Howe's press conference isn't until tomorrow. What we do know is Shelby, Darlow and Isaac look at this moment as if they will be unavailable. ASM is set to return. It does remain to be seen whether the knee injury that confined Joe Linton to the bench, whether that is something which ultimately is still going to keep him out, and whether Matt Targett is going to be fit as well. The fitness of Matt Ritchie is also to be confirmed. As for Brentford, Pontus Jansson is the only one that we know that is doubtful with a hamstring injury. Brentford away from home this season will have drawn at Leicester 2-2. They've drawn at Crystal Palace 1-1. They've drawn at Bournemouth 0-0. Their only defeat on the road was a 2-3 loss at Fulham. Referee this weekend is John Brooks from Leicester. His only previous senior game involving Newcastle was our League Cup penalty shootout success at Newport County in 2020. This will be the 8th Premier League game that Brooks has taken charge of. As for VAR, which is often switched off, but sometimes is switched on, as it was last weekend, Paul Tierney is on VAR. War Flags, of course, I'm sure we'll have something very special this weekend. And don't forget, if you are coming by train, well, bad news, there is a rail strike. So hopefully you will have realised that and will have made alternative arrangements. Of course, the only railway company that's running into Newcastle on Saturday will be LNER, and they've advertised 3 departures from King's Cross if you're coming from London, of course, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock and noon, calling at York, Darlington and Durham. There's also 3 southbound LNER services. Their departure times from Newcastle are 11:53, 1:53 and 3:51. So absolutely useless for football fans who want to go to the match, unless you want to get there, see the flags being waved, stay for 20 minutes and then walk back down to the station. So there's no Lumo, there's no cross country, there's no Transpennine, there's no northern services at all. Complete mess. As for the Metro, I'm sorry this sounds like a travel announcement, but it is important for those of you who are coming. There's been a complete shutdown of the Metro between South Shields and Pilo. So that means you've got to get a bus, which is the X900 and the 900. Those buses are in operation. Saturday's rail strike, though, of course, results in a Metro service suspension between Pilo and South Hilton. That's because that section of the track, bizarrely, is controlled by Network Rail. Yep, unbelievable. The food bank is going to be there, of course, outside Newcastle United. Get yourself across to see Steve Hasty and the gang opposite Shearer's bar and make a donation if you can. Now, a couple of questions. One from David R. Do you chaps expect Brentford to play more open than previous teams coming to St James's Park? Because I think this game will suit us and we will score a number. And another question to take into consideration when you're talking about the game, I'll come to you first, Mal. Do you stick with Burn or do you bring Targett back? Now, I'm going to give you my suggestion, which I've already mentioned on the show this week. I personally think he'll drop Burn. I think he'll bring Targett back in. And I think he'll play Botman and Shaw together. And I think he'll drop Murphy. And I think he'll bring ASM back in. That's my prediction.
Yeah, quite likely. With regards to Burn or Targett, there is just one thing that worries me about Targett, and that is that he lacks pace when he's pushed, and he can be a bit slow on the turn at times. Byrne, despite being inches taller, he's a much more athletic and agile player, and doesn't get caught like that. So personally, I would play Byrne, and I think that the back four looks really good in that formation with Byrne at left back. And one point that I really would make with regards to playing Brentford on Saturday is the value of the 3 points that Newcastle got at Fulham last week. If you really want to get maximum value, you've got to win on Saturday against Brentford. Otherwise, that terrific result at down at Fulham, it loses its value to Newcastle come the end of the season in particular. And so, when you've won away from home, which is a great result, great performance, you've got to get home and pick up a further 3 points to have the full value. And all of a sudden, if we start putting wins on the board, it's surprising just how quickly you can go up the table. And so hopefully, and I really do hope that this is going to happen, that Fulham it's that turning point where the team can get away from too many draws and start now to turn them into wins.
People asking us what the weather's going to be like on Saturday after me public service announcement. You Colin. Gibbo, I'm just a man of information. I'm just trying to help you guys out there. John, go on, your take on those. I mean, the formation will be the same. It's the personnel which will be different, and just the thoughts on whether you think Brentford will come and have a go.
They'll not have a go too much, because sides don't want to come up here and do that. We are unbeaten at home this season. We've drawn too many, but we're unbeaten at home. They won't come up and do too much. The formation will be exactly the same, 4-3-3. It'll just be whether Targett or Byrne plays left back. I think I would play Targett. The interesting thing was Byrne, who is essentially a left-sided central midfield player, got the left-back position on Saturday. And did you notice that there was 3 orthodox left-backs on the subs bench? There was Targett, and there was Dummett, and there was Jamal Lewis. Now, if you're an orthodox left-back, you must be well pissed off with the fact that the left-back in the team is actually a centre-half. But that is how much faith Eddie has got in Byrne. Byrne has only missed starting in 1 league game this season, and he got on as a sub. That's how much he rates him. But he can play left back, and he has played left back, as Malcolm has said, and he did at Brighton and very successfully. But he's not a natural left back, and if Targett is not that great at going forward, Byrne is less so. I think he will play. The rest of it's going to be as per with Sam Maximum for Sam Maximum for Murphy, and it's just a matter of whether Joe Linton can get in midfield or whether he can't start. We put one wrong to right at Fulham, and that was we'd waited far too long for our second win of the season in the Premier League. We'd waited 6 matches from the opening day of the season. We're righted a wrong. We've now got to right another wrong. And the wrong that we've got to correct is the fact that the last 2 home games we've played, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth, not top quality Premier League sides by any means, not Champions League sides, and we've failed to beat them. we've got to beat Brentford. That is absolutely 100% necessary. And I honestly think we will. But I honestly said we would beat Crystal Palace, and I honestly said we'd beat Bournemouth. We didn't either. But I think this time we will. And you know why we will? I'm going back to the same reason as why we played well at Fulham. We will because Bruno and Callum Wilson will start.
Sure. And
We'll
just
beat Brentford.
Yeah, and just taking that a stage further, John, that okay, so sides come to St James Park and they tend to overfill their own penalty area. The reason why Newcastle have struggled so to score goals is because Callum Wilson wasn't playing, because there is nobody who knows the art of being in a really crowded penalty area, but knows how to make that little bit of space. Wilson can do that, and what space is to him is just a fraction. If he can get just that fraction in front, and the right ball comes in, he will score. And so. I also think that Wilson, and we certainly saw it against Fulham, that Wilson, in having that ability in the box and all his teammates are aware of it, all of a sudden they're wanting to get in there, go and join him, go and help him, be a part of it. And hence, and in all fairness, that Almiron scored 2. When was the last time we saw him in the penalty area?
Saturday at Fulham.
Well, no, but before then, John.
Yes, I know.
It was just running to corner flags, but because of Wilson, all of a sudden, instead of it going that way, it now starts to focus. To the opposing penalty area. I
think you're right in terms of when we got those 2 disappointing draws at home with Crystal Palace and with Bournemouth. Wilson didn't start either. He is starting this game. My Jove, is he necessary? And my Jove, aren't we welcoming him back for a home game? And because he's there, and I don't think he'll last 90 minutes, but he'll last 70, and maybe that will be enough. I believe, and we've got Bruno, and we might have San Maxi for some of the game. I'm taking Newcastle to win 3-1.
Okay, Mal, what's your prediction, mate?
Well, I had pretty much the same scoreline, not exactly as John. What I would dearly love to see is Newcastle score 1 or 2 goals, but keep a clean sheet. and I enjoy asking people, or rather, people would ask me, what was your favourite goal? And my answer to that always was my next one. And that's how players have got to go on the pitch, with that kind of attitude. I want to get out there and score my best ever goal. And Wilson, his best ever goal is exactly that. It's his next one. He's not going to hark back to the Fulham goal or whatever. He's just wanting to stick another one in the net, stick another one in. And what happens there is that it sort of becomes infectious through the side. Almiron, all of a sudden, he starts going in different directions, more positive directions. If St Maximum plays, great. I think that we'll see a difference to him, and it'll be the Wilson effect. It's having that goal scorer, but also the goal scorer's mentality in the side, in the dressing room, and what have you. And so, yeah, I am looking forward to it. John, I'm hoping that that Brentford don't score. They were a bit shambolic against Bournemouth, and so I'm going to go 3-0.
Okay, I'm going 2-0, guys. So we're all going for a win, which is great. A lot of people in the chat are as well. As always, a great show with the lads. Don't forget, you can catch up with Malcolm at the Dog and Parrot, and you can catch up with John Anderson at Humphreys. Look forward to seeing you next week, guys, and we will play out with the ads. Take care.
Take care. God bless.
Enjoy the game.
Enjoy.
A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead. Their phone number is 0191 478 2730. You can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or go to the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists based on Nunn Street. The GOHD.com is their website. And thanks again to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give them a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to the lads at Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. These are hot sauces, and you can find them at mrvickys.co.uk or place an order by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks also to the lads at Blowhole Brewery, a fine amount of ales available from their website, www.blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the badge in the corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath this video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you to the membership section of the website. If you choose to go that way, then you will get a pen, a cup, a scarf and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw for a one-off payment of £25. We also give you something for free. If you want a car window sticker, email John at NUFCmatters.com and he will send you one if you are a subscriber. We also help the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the matchday bucket. If you go there, you can make a virtual donation at any time of the year. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School, October half term, Monday the 24th to Friday the 28th of October. You can book now, peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Peter's also running Monday night training on the 26th of October. Again, the same website. And if you want to meet Peter Beardsley, well, you've got 3 chances. Newcastle Legends game, Friday, October the 14th. The Peter Beardsley talk-in is taking place after the game. Tickets for this are available from NUFCmatters.com. Adult admission is £5, junior admission is £2. The talk-in is adults only, and that is a £10. And the events are all taking place at the Fox Hunters Pavilion in North Shields. We've got Peter Beardsley available, tickets available for the St Dom's Catholic Club show. You need to go straight to their website and you just buy your tickets there. And for this one at the Irish Centre, tickets are available now on NUFCmatters.com. Don't forget, Supermac at the Dog and Parrot, every pre-match and every post-match, every home game. And John Gibson and John Anderson are at Humphreys pre-match only. If you did like our true crime stuff, it has all migrated to the True Crime channel. So get yourself across there on YouTube and subscribe today.